Hello, my name's Tom Herbert. I'm a baker at Hobbs Bakery here in Chipping Sodbury, and here in the house I grew up in, we made it into a cookery school where we now teach kids of all ages how to bake bread. So the main ingredient in bread is flour, this stuff. It comes in white and wholemeal and different types of varieties, but it all starts off growing in a field like this. So this is wheat. You may have seen it in the fields. It grows green to start with, and then as the sun ripens the wheat, so it goes this lovely golden colour. And when it's nice and dry, late summer, it's ready to be harvested. So a combine harvester comes, chops it up, and cuts it off, and then these bits are shaken, and the little bits of wheat fall out of these ears. These are called ears. These bits here. Grain from the wheat goes into a mill, and if it's an old traditional stone ground mill, you've got two big stones, one on top of the other, the grain goes into the top in a little hole in the middle, and as these stones spin around really fast, it squashes the grain and it works its way to the outside, getting smaller and smaller as it does. And what falls off the ends is this stuff, flour. Well, this has been sieved, so wholemeal is the brown stuff that's got all of what comes out of the stones in it, just crushed up, really fine wheat grain. But if you sieve out all the bran, then you end up with white flour, which can make you a delicious looking loaf like this. But if you leave all of the bran in, you make a lovely wholemeal loaf that has delicious kind of nutty flavour. So from the field to the crop, as the sun ripens the wheat, it's cut, harvested, goes into a mill where it's ground down to flour. That's then delivered to bakeries where it's mixed with water and yeast and seasoned with a bit of salt. And then if it's left and given good time to rise, it develops a really delicious bready flavour. And that's how we make bread. And I do this bit, so that makes me a baker. Okay, so a day in the life of a baker starts really, really early in the morning, because our customers want their bread first thing so that they can put the bread into the shops ready for selling, or so they can cut the bread and make sandwiches out of it ready for people's lunches and even toast for breakfast. So bread has to be ready super early. That means as bakers we've got to work really, really early in order to make sure the bread's ready. What actually happens at Hobbs is we get all of our customers to ring in their orders. So they ring it up saying, I want 6 of these loaves, 5 of those, a dozen rolls, say. We add up all of those orders, and by 2 o'clock in the afternoon we know what everyone wants. We then quickly do some sums and work out how much dough do we need of all the different types of bread that we make. We then get making those doughs, and we start with the ones that take longest to rise. So sourdoughs, like this here, or this one here, they take a really long time to rise. So hours and hours and hours. So we start with these first, and that means that they'll be ready when the vans go out and make deliveries to different shops and to different people's kitchens. Then we do the bread that needs slicing, because we've got a big slicing machine in our bakery, and the bread has to be cooled before it can be sliced. So we do that next, and then we finish off the morning. So we've got people that work all the way through the night. Bakers that start from 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they work through till about midnight, and then another team come in at 10 p.m. and they work through until 6 o'clock in the morning. And then there's a team that starts at 4 o'clock in the morning. They do some of the finishing off jobs. So some of the last things we bake off would be like croissants and buns and things that dry out quite quickly. So we call that staling. So you want to make things like baguettes and buns and croissants as late as possible, so they're going out to the customers as fresh as possible. And some of those jobs are quite sticky at the end, like jamming donuts, putting icing and sprinkles on buns, and those people that start baking about 4 o'clock in the morning, they work through the day, kind of doing lots of preparation stuff for the team that comes in later. So in the world of our bakery, it never ends. It's running 24 hours a day. We just stop on Sunday where we can do deep cleaning and maintenance and fix machines and things like that. But otherwise it's going all the time. The bad thing about that is it can be quite tiring. We have to drink lots of coffee to keep us awake. The good thing about it is it smells amazing all the time. So that's my world of baking. I'd like to give you a quick rundown of my favourite loaves. The most recent favourite one is my new gluten-free loaf. I made 39 different batches of this before I finally cracked it, and it doesn't have any gluten in it. So for my mother-in-law who's gluten-free, I'm sure you know someone who can't eat gluten, this is the one for them. It's really super nutritious with lots of great seeds in it. So that's a new favourite. I love these sourdoughs. It's like choosing between your children. It's quite tricky to know which one's the best. I think I'm going to go with this one. This is the newest sourdough. It's called St. Martin. It's named after Martin, or Martin as we call him, because he's from Bristol. He helped me create this loaf, so we named it after him, and I thought I'd call it St. Martin because I'd hope it'd make him into a better man, but so far it's failing on that front. But it is an amazing loaf. Great thing about sourdough is it's got this beautiful flavour. It's really strong flavour, which I love and lots of people love too, so if you haven't tried it, you must. It's got big bubbles in it, it's nice and chewy, and it's got a really delicious crust as well, which can't be said of all breads. Then, but my number one favourite of all time has to be this one. We call this Schurston. It's named after the village that it comes from. It's my great-grandfather's recipe, so I'm a 5th generation baker, and we've been making this loaf exactly the same way for nearly 100 years. So the style of bread is called overnight. That's where you make the dough with a tiny amount of yeast. So yeast is the stuff that makes bread rise. It basically, you can get it dried or fresh if you live near a bakery, and it's a fungus, which sounds a bit gross. And what it does is, and this is even more gross, is it eats the sugar that's naturally present in the flour. This is the science bit, by the way. It eats the sugar. Well, the sugar is starch that's in the flour, and it converts that to carbon dioxide. I think the way to remember it is that yeast farts up bread and wheezes alcohol. That's how I like to think of it. The alcohol gives it the kind of bready flavour that we all know and love. So back in the day, in 1920, when my great-grandfather got started with baking, yeast was really expensive. So he just used a tiny amount, which means that the dough takes ages to rise. So he would have made the dough in something like this. This is a dough bin. You'd kind of mix the dough together loads and loads because it's to feed a whole village. And then you'd leave that dough in this, under the lid here, and leave it to rise. So it would start off about that big, and then the yeast would work, and it would rise and rise and rise. And the story goes, my granddad swears this is true. He used to sleep on this, and it would, the dough rising like this great big kind of bubble monster would tip him off first thing in the morning when it was time to start work in the bakery before the cock crows, that you didn't have an alarm clock. And can there be a better way to start any day at work